Today, we're going to be talking about something very powerful, challenging, and hopefully beneficial, more so than these black flies. Something was revealed to me that I'm hoping at this early point in these videos, much too early, but I'm hoping because it came to me in my life experience right now, so I'm inspired to share it. I'm hoping that it will work for you in terms of something that you can relate to and see through my eyes, how it impacted on me. And hopefully it will do the same for you. I just recently finished a remake of a record that I made 30 years ago under the name Zulu Matrix called Hyperspace. And something so powerful was revealed in a way that I can share with you. And it's so wonderful to have that kind of an example of something so that what I'm about to share with you won't be just abstract. Because the idea that I'm going to share with you is not new, but there's a difficulty that for most of us, it's just an abstract idea. It's not something that's easy to share, and except now. Now I have one for you. Okay. So, when I made the original, it only took a couple of days, non-stop, no sleep. So basically, let's call it 50 hours to do the original. And now here I am 30 years later with far better technology, and I'm doing something that I'd already done once before. It's the same song. And yet it took over 1,000 hours to do it again. Why is that? Well, this is the beauty of it. The explanation on the surface is quite simple as being bitten by a black fly. But it's a lot deeper than that. We're going to get into this in a second. The simple version is this, and that is that although I am the same human who did that 30 years ago, it's not me. It wasn't me. Oh, these black flies are unreal. It's crazy because it's so windy, but they're on to me. Anyways, it's not the same me in terms of this notion that we have as a society and basically as a species, really, that we somehow are a continuous, static being. Oh. And that we're somehow walking through life as an individual, as someone who is indivisible. And that's just not true. It's not true on any level. First of all, it's not true physically. Every cell in our body is constantly being regenerated. Cells are dying and being duplicated. Basically, every cell of you is completely replaced every 7 years, roughly. And so 30 years is a lot of 7-year cycles. So physically, it's not the same, me. But it's not just that. Our notion of the self, of me, of the I, of the ego, is completely false. It's an illusion. Not only is it an illusion, it's a delusion. It's completely delusional. It's insane. There's only one law in the universe. There's only one constant in the universe. And now I'm quoting a song of mine, The Process. In the very first line, I say, we are all patterns constantly changing. That's the only constant in the whole universe is change. And we call it entropy. The way that things have of going from order to disorder. That's the only law in the whole universe is entropy. And we somehow have this delusion, as I said, an insane delusion of somehow being exempt from entropy. Even though we all know that every one of us is going to die, how much more entropic does it get than death? But somehow as we are aging and going through life, we have this delusion that we are still the same all the time, even though we're constantly changing, as the song says. And that started long ago. And I want to go into that now. To share, maybe I didn't go far enough yet into the idea of about what happened with the song. Let me just wrap that up for a second. And that is that what I did 30 years ago was natural for me because of where I was in that time. Because this might be outside the realm of this video, but I'll touch on it. Time, wow, this is way too deep. I'm going to have to come back to this another time. Forget about that. Time. Another time. About time. Anyways, where I was at that time, let's say in the universe, that'll do as a shortcut for a much deeper topic, was not the same as where I am now. And I don't mean in terms of I lived somewhere else at that time or I was in a different studio at that time. It's not like that. It's, to quote Buckaroo Banzai, wherever you go, there you are. And it's like that in terms of time. Wherever you are at a particular moment in time, that's where you are. If that makes any sense. It will when I do another video about time. So anyways, I was in a different, let's say, mind space. It's clumsy, but it'll do. So in that moment of time, I was not this Tommy. I was that Tommy. And this Tommy that started this sentence was not the same one that's finishing it. This is not the same Tommy that was here at the beginning of this video. And it's the same with you. And so we have this delusion of somehow being exempt to the basic law of the universe. The only constant is change. So when we think, and it's not just about thinking, we've been conditioned to not think it, but to just be. To us, it's reality. This delusion has become real. That we actually believe that we are a fixed entity traveling through the universe. And that the universe is changing all around us, but not us. It's like we have a force field that's as tight as my clothing. My skin is a force field that is preventing the entropy that's happening all around me, including sending a black fly to oblivion. That somehow we are exempt from it because of our force field, our imaginary force field, our delusional imaginary force field. And that cripples us. That prevents us from being free. And it does so much more than that. It is staggering what that delusion does to us. And so you see, when I spent 1,000 hours doing something for the second time that only took me 50 hours to do the first time 30 years ago, and it's not because I have less skill. I have more skill and far better technology than I did back then. We won't get into the technological aspect of it because that's a double-edged sword right there. When you have an infinite amount of choice, it takes a lot longer to make a simple decision than it does. If you only have one hammer, everything looks like a nail. But if you have an entire hardware store of every kind of tool you could imagine, everything doesn't look like a nail anymore. But I digress. But that does apply in the bigger way to what I'm talking about. I'll leave that to you to consider in the bigger picture. So, I got this one. Welcome to entropy. This began for us, this delusion. I'll tell you exactly when it began. It began during the primordial stage of us. We were probably not even human yet, when, for the first time, one of our ancestors took advantage of another one and got the other one to do a task for them. And they took advantage of that. And next thing you know, they got better and better at it, and a hierarchy was formed where some have power over others. And now, here we are, probably 1,000,000 years later, where every last human on earth is conditioned to do that and nothing else. Every time you spend $1 or €1 or whatever your unit of currency is for money, you are doing exactly that. Because it doesn't have to be enslaving, although money does enslave other humans, but it doesn't matter. It could be the destruction of the environment, as was done here. It's the same thing. It's delusional. It's this sense of entitlement to think that an opinion about something, a preference about something, is anything more than simply being selfish and greedy for anything, whether it's just for power or for money or for food or for whatever. It doesn't matter. It's selfish greed. That's it. End of statement. There's nothing else to it. Nothing. So that's how it began, this mind virus, if you will, that has swept all of humanity away and turned us into this disease on this planet. Is any of this resonating with you in terms of how it may be a factor in your own sense of dissatisfaction and constant need for everything, for money, for toys, for gadgets, for whatever it is, prestige, fame, blah, 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 you name it, whatever. changing the environment to suit your preference. Doesn't matter what it is, it's all the same. Freedom from that is a lot easier than you may think. And it's also a lot harder than you may think, depending on whether or not you have reached this kind of, I don't know what to call it. There's no language for it. But just to say a position in time where you see how it affects you. You, not this imaginary exempt from everything, imaginary ego nonsense. The you that is living and breathing right now, to see how this is affecting you. And then, and only then, freedom is right there. Right there. You don't have to grab it. It becomes you. You are it. There's no becoming. It's just, it's not even a happening. There's no language for this. There is no language for this. Because it's so outside of the way that we have existed for time immemorial, since we started taking advantage of each other and the whole planet, and soon other planets, thanks to the incredible toxic delusion of those who now have so much wealth and power that they, on a whim, can say, yeah, let's go to Mars or Uranus. That's where they belong, I think. Not yours, because it might be uncomfortable, but someone's anus. There's a way for you to be, not to become, not to seek, not to find, just to be. Ha! Another song. That's all that it is. It's just to be. Without the insanity, without the delusions, without the preferences and desires and greed and entitlement, without all of the garbage, without all of the insanity. To just be.